I beat Donkey Kong Bananza the day it released, mostly because I found the gameplay kind of tedious, but what kept me going was the story. And I'm so happy for it because that last layer, holy crap. Donkey Kong Bananza is the first 3D Donkey Kong game that we've gotten since Donkey Kong 64, one of my favorite old platformers of all time. Now saying that, it's much different than Donkey Kong 64, which objectively isn't a bad thing. Like I said before, I think the game gets kind of tedious, but that's just my taste. I know the game is really good, and I still really like the game, especially having played more in the post-game too. But still, not my favorite kind of platformer. Felt more like an adventure game than a platformer, honestly. That being said though, what kept me going was that story. Knowing there was a mystery behind why Pauline was, one, turned into a rock, and two, a kid. And as you go through the story, you learn little bits and pieces of who Pauline is and what she was like on the surface and what she wants to do with her life. Why does Voidco want her? Because they need some kind of power she has. Yes, when Pauline sings, it gives you powers. Obviously, her singing has some kind of power, but she's too shy to sing a lot of times. But as the game progresses, she gets more and more confident because DK's helping bring her out of her shell. That's such a great concept. The more cutscenes I saw, the more dialogue I heard, the more interested and the more invested I got in this story, which is really what pushed me to pretty much ignore the rest of the game and just do story missions over and over and over until I steamrolled that shit right to the end. And then you get to the end. You finally approach Void Kong getting ready to make his wish, and they show it. Hey look, DK, it's the Banandium root! As a fat man myself, I know a big-ass belly when I see one. I freaked out. So I did my best to beat Void Kong as fast as possible because I knew what was coming. But right after you beat him, there's still a little bit more to go before we get to the grand finale. We get a pretty crazy cutscene of Void Kong doing something Frieza could never do.
The most powerful being in the universe! You fool!
And successfully trap Donkey Kong, giving Pauline no choice but to sing and wake up the Banandium root, but also save DK, which is exactly what happens. But then Void Kong sprints for the Banandium root, jumping to reach it for it. Boom! God! So cool! Bam! Void Kong gets jailed Robotnik'd into his little sun mining thing. He's deader than Chunky. And then, oh, the return of the king, baby. King K. Rool emerges from the ground to become the main enemy, revealing he's been gone for so long because he's been trapped at the core of the planet after trying to get to the Banandium root, along with the rest of the Kremlings. So then he dives down further and you gotta follow him through a gauntlet of all the classic enemies. This is how you end a game, bringing back K. Rool, all the Kremlings, and revealing that most of the enemies you were fighting throughout the game were just reanimated Kremlings as well. Before I got to that final layer, I was pretty disappointed with this game, mostly because I didn't find it as platformy as I would have liked, but just being hit with that much raw epicness, for lack of a better non-cringy term, it just made this game so much better. I could hang out in that core of the planet for hours, just fighting critters. They even make the sound when you kill them. But this whole situation really cements what I always say. A good or great story elevates a game even further than what it is on its own mechanically. Obviously, it's just my opinion that the game isn't all that great. It's a good game, I like it, I just don't find it as fantastic and amazing as everyone else does. But because of that story, I will be coming back to this game over and over and over again. I can't get enough of this story. I've watched the cutscenes over again on YouTube while I'm still playing it. I've watched a couple streamers react to it, especially Games Cages. That was just awesome. It was like reacting to it all over again. This isn't really what I usually make, but I just had to talk about how amazing this story and ending was to DK Bananza. And it really makes me excited to see what they're going to be doing with the next Mario game. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. I will see you next time on The Z-Man Show.